When Valerie screamed, "Community property," at my $2 million Marina gate, she had no idea this retired Coast Guard engineer was about to twist her own HOA regulations back on her and turn her wine gatherings into her worst nightmare. For 2 years, her Wines and Wines book club had taken over my private dock every Thursday. 12 Karens in sun hats clogging up my yacht, dripping rose on teak decks, leaving lipstick-smeared cups and diesel-soaked trash until 2 a.m. The reek hit me every Friday morning like a hangover I'd never earned. So I put up a steel gate on my land. The metallic slam when it locked was pure justice. She threatened lawsuits, called in her city councilman husband, insisted the dock was shared community space. I just smiled and pulled out 3 years of time-stamped evidence. Every infraction, every lie, every dirty move she thought nobody noticed. What this power-drunk HOA chair didn't realize was that I'd been recording everything and payback was about to get very, very public. What would you do if an HOA tried to take your property? Drop your city in the comments. I'm watching from Naples, Florida. Let me rewind and explain how this whole nightmare began. 3 years back, I inherited waterfront property in Millfield Cove, Connecticut, from Uncle Harold, a crusty Coast Guard engineer who preferred rebuilding engines to dealing with people. Smart man. The place came with 2 separate deeds, the main house where I live, and a 6-slip marina Harold built in 1987. We're talking legit permits, environmental approvals, $20,000 in materials. This wasn't a weekend DIY project. Harold had designed floating docks for the Coast Guard for 30 years. Always check if inherited property includes multiple parcels with separate deeds. It's your strongest shield against HOA overreach. Multiple deeds mean multiple property rights that can't be mashed together without your approval. The marina sat mostly empty when I moved in. Harold's old Boston whaler floated in slip 3, crusted with seagull droppings and salt spray. The smell of creosote and diesel fuel brought back my own Coast Guard days. Quiet, exactly what I needed after 3 decades of military service. That peace lasted precisely 4 months. Enter Valerie Morton, 48, real estate agent and self-crowned queen of the Millfield Cove HOA. Picture someone who color codes her spice rack and irons her yoga pants. Her husband, Daniel, sits on city council, the sort of politician who remembers your bank account but not your name. Valerie first ascended on a Thursday in May, leading 12 SUVs down to my marina like some entitled wagon caravan. I watched from my deck as women in designer athleisure unloaded enough wine to float a small destroyer. The clink of stemware against my custom teak railings made me wince. "Oh, hi," Valerie chirped when she spotted me. "Just using the community marina for book club. Hope you don't mind." The nerve hit me like a slap. "This is private property. My uncle built this on his own land." Her smile froze, but those shark eyes started calculating. Well, there's obviously been some mix-up. Waterfront amenities are community resources here. I'll have someone look into the paperwork. That someone was Daniel, who miraculously dug up an HOA covenant claiming shared access to recreational waterfront facilities. Never mind that this marina existed 10 years before their HOA was even formed. Details, right? Here's where it gets infuriating. Instead of simply asking to occasionally use the dock, Valerie declared it community property and started charging her book club members $50 each as marina access fees. She was literally making money off my property while telling me I had zero say in it. Every Thursday became my personal nightmare. The Wines and Wines Club, though I never saw them open anything but Chardonnay, would roll in like an invading force, blocking my boat access, rearranging my furniture, leaving disasters of lipstick-smudged cups and soggy cheese plates drifting in the water. The sound of their wine-fueled cackling at midnight sent my blood pressure through the roof. These weren't quiet book talks. They were full-fledged parties with speakers, gossip marathons, and enough drunk drama to fuel a reality series. When I politely asked them to tidy up, Valerie would pat my arm like I was a confused golden retriever. "Caleb, don't be antisocial. Community spirit is what makes Millfield special." Community spirit? Lady, you're running an unlicensed commercial operation on my private dock and keeping the cash. The breaking point hit when security footage caught one of her wine-soaked friends trying to steal my uncle's restored Boston whaler. A blonde in a Wine Mom t-shirt was fumbling with the ignition while her crew egged her on like it was spring break. That's when I put in the $12,000 steel gate with electronic locks and enough cameras to make the Pentagon nervous. The expression on Valerie's face when that gate clanged shut the first time? Priceless. But here's what I didn't expect. Instead of backing off like any rational person, Valerie declared total war. And honestly, I'd been hoping she would. The morning after I locked Valerie out, she filed a formal HOA complaint accusing me of antisocial behavior harmful to community harmony. The smell of fresh coffee turned sour in my throat as I read her 3-page manifesto, accusing me of hoarding community resources and showing hostility toward neighborhood traditions. Tradition? Lady, your wine circus started 2 years ago, not 2 centuries. But Valerie wasn't messing around. She set an emergency architectural review board meeting for Tuesday morning, conveniently timed so working people couldn't show up. The agenda item read, "Review of unauthorized gate installation, restricting community waterfront access." The word unauthorized made my jaw tighten. I'd pull proper permits like any law-abiding resident. Her secret weapon was a copy of the 1997 HOA covenants, claiming all waterfront recreational facilities were under community control. She'd highlighted every clause in hot pink, probably while sipping her morning mimosa and plotting my execution. Most folks would freak out at this point, but 3 decades in the Coast Guard taught me that paperwork battles are won by whoever does their homework first. While Valerie prepped my public hanging, I was at town hall digging through filing cabinets that smelled like old cigarettes and bureaucratic despair. Town clerk, Mrs. Carver, a sharp woman who'd been filing records since the Carter years, pulled out my uncle's original 1987 Marina permits. "Harold was thorough," she said, adjusting wire-rimmed glasses. "These permits clearly state the Marina was built on private lot 47B, totally separate from residential lots under HOA authority." Then Mrs. Carver dropped a bomb that made my blood run cold. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Morton, requested these same documents 6 months ago." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "Before you even moved here, she asked specifically about adverse possession laws, how long someone has to use property before claiming ownership." The pieces slid together like a weapon being assembled. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment power grab. Valerie had been plotting this Marina theft since before I'd unpacked my first box. She'd researched the legal angles, probably found that 15 years of continuous use could establish adverse possession rights in Connecticut, and figured 2 years of wine parties would be enough to muddy the waters. The woman was playing a long game, and I'd walked straight into her trap. Armed with Harold's permits and deed restrictions, I walked into Valerie's kangaroo court, ready for battle. The HOA meeting room smelled like vanilla air freshener and manufactured outrage. A dozen neighbors slumped in folding chairs, looking like they'd rather be getting root canals. Valerie opened with a PowerPoint titled "Preserving Community Values," because nothing screams grassroots authenticity like corporate presentation software. She'd photographed my gate from every angle, adding dramatic red arrows pointing at the lock like it was evidence of domestic terrorism. "This barrier," she announced, laser pointer clicking with prosecutorial flair, "represents selfish individualism threatening our neighborhood fabric." She continued with rehearsed talking points about my exclusionary fence creating social division. She claimed 3 families were thinking about moving because of my supposed hostility. Her bracelets clattered against the podium mic with each accusation, creating an annoying metallic soundtrack to her performance. When she finished assassinating my character, I stood with my manila folder. "Before we discuss community values," I said, "let's discuss property law." I spread Harold's permits across the table like a winning poker hand. This marina was built entirely on Lot 47B with a separate deed, environmental impact study, Coast Guard floating dock approval, town permits specifically exempting marina facilities from HOA jurisdiction. Silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects. Valerie's face cycled through 5 emotional stages in 10 seconds. Confusion, denial, anger, bargaining, then full panic as she realized she'd missed crucial details in her scheming. "Furthermore," I continued, savoring her unraveling, "the 1997 HOA covenants explicitly cover residential lots 1 through 46. Lot 47B isn't listed because it was already developed and specifically excluded from HOA control." Board member Greg Martinez, a decent mechanic who probably wished he were fixing carburetors instead of refereeing neighborhood warfare, cleared his throat. "So, the marina was never HOA property?" "Never. My uncle negotiated that exclusion in writing before joining the association. Everything's filed, recorded, and legally airtight." Valerie scrambled for damage control. "There could be implied easements for community access. Maritime law recognizes—" I cut her off. "Maritime law recognizes private property rights. Implied easements apply to necessary access, not recreational party zones." Awkward paper shuffling followed, chairs creaked, and the room dissolved into uncomfortable silence. But as neighbors filed out, I caught the look in Valerie's eyes. Not defeat, calculating rage. This woman wasn't retreating. If anything, she'd just upgraded the conflict. She dialed someone as I walked to my truck, probably cashing in every political favor Daniel had banked over the years. Valerie's revenge came fast and filthy. 2 days after the HOA meeting, a city inspector materialized at my door like a government-issued Grim Reaper. "Marina safety inspection," he announced with the enthusiasm of someone attending their own funeral. "Got reports of hazardous conditions requiring immediate review." Meet Leonard Price, a weaselly bureaucrat who had clearly never set foot on a proper dock. He stumbled around my marina snapping photos of perfectly normal equipment while inventing violations out of thin air. "This electrical junction box violates proximity standards," he muttered, photographing a Coast Guard-approved installation that predated his driver's license. The stench of his bargain aftershave mixed with morning salt air made my eyes sting. Watching this man pretend to understand marine engineering was like watching a toddler attempt brain surgery. "Show me the specific code," I demanded, trailing him with my own camera. Leonard couldn't cite a single regulation, just vague mumbles about public safety protocols and adequate community access standards. When I asked for his marine credentials, he suddenly developed selective hearing loss. His violation report read like bureaucratic fan fiction. 17 alleged safety issues, including insufficient lighting for public use and inadequate capacity for community access. The punchline? His recommendation for immediate municipal oversight pending compliance. Municipal oversight meant Daniel Morton would control my private property through city authority. These thieves weren't just stealing my dock. They were using government power to sanitize their robbery. But corruption leaves tracks if you know where to look. My public records request revealed that Leonard wasn't random. He was Daniel's former business partner in a construction company that collapsed, owing contractors over $200K. During my Coast Guard years investigating maritime fraud, I learned to follow money, and the money here stank. Daniel had clearly activated his bankrupt buddy to fabricate violations that would justify city seizure. The corruption was so blatant it was insulting. Did they think this old sailor wouldn't notice a shakedown? I hired Coastal Marine Engineering for an independent audit. $3,000 to watch Dr. Nora Halverson examine every bolt Harold had installed. Her boots echoed on dock planks as she tested each connection with surgical precision. "Your uncle was a master," she said, running expert hands along the galvanized supports. "This marina exceeds current standards by a mile. Whoever reported safety issues is either incompetent or lying." Her report confirmed what I knew: exemplary condition beyond code requirements. Leonard's certification from some weekend seminar didn't qualify him to inspect a kiddie pool. Then the anonymous envelopes began. The first contained a photocopied HOA minutes from 3 years ago discussing multi-phase acquisition strategy for premium waterfront assets and revenue optimization through slip rental expansion. Someone had highlighted a line about targeting properties with unclear ownership transitions. They'd been planning this heist since before I'd moved in. The attached note read, "They destroyed our family too. Fight back. Marjorie F." I recognized her from the HOA meeting, a quiet, elderly woman who'd taken notes, while Valerie performed her PowerPoint persecution. Turns out Marjorie was one of the original HOA founders who helped Harold negotiate the Marina exemption in 1987. The second envelope contained bank records showing Valerie's real estate company collecting Marina access fees, $47,000 over 18 months. She'd been selling access to my private property, pocketing the money, and using city inspectors to justify her theft. But Valerie wasn't finished. She organized a petition claiming my marina caused traffic congestion and environmental harm. 37 signatures demanded city action against my selfish property hoarding, using Leonard's fabricated safety concerns as justification. Then came her media blitz. Channel 12 News teased an interview about an uncooperative veteran disrupting community harmony. The preview showed Valerie on the public beach, gesturing dramatically at my gate while lamenting newcomers who reject neighborhood cooperation. Unbelievable. This woman had spent 2 years exploiting my property, profiting off fraudulent marketing, deploying corrupt officials to create fake violations. And now she cast herself as the victim of my antisocial behavior. But every move she made gave me more ammunition. My attorney was building a federal case that would make Watergate look like a parking violation. The metallic edge of anger in my mouth reminded me of combat situations, that moment when you realize your enemy has overplayed their hand. Let Valerie keep digging. She had no idea how deep this hole was or how many federal agencies were about to get involved. Game on, sweetheart. Valerie went full scorched earth the following week. Channel 12's morning show featured her on the public beach in a crisp white blazer, looking like she was auditioning for sainthood. "We have a decorated veteran who's forgotten the values he once served," she told the camera with Oscar-level sincerity. "When neighbors can't share waterfront resources, we've lost the spirit that makes America great." The audacity made my breakfast taste like sawdust. This woman was questioning my patriotism because I wouldn't let her steal my dock. She had more nerve than a toothache and half the sense. By noon, she'd organized a Marina Liberation Rally, complete with professionally printed signs reading, "Veterans should share," and "Community over greed." 23 people chanted carefully focus group slogans while staying just outside trespass boundaries. Someone clearly checked with lawyers beforehand. Fresh poster paint mixed with salt air as I watched Valerie work the crowd like a seasoned politician. She was probably rehearsing for Daniel's future mayoral campaign, using my marina as her stepping stone to higher office. Then came her nuclear option, filing a formal complaint with the State Department of Environmental Protection, claiming I was illegally blocking public waterway access. Her written report accused me of environmental crimes and unauthorized dock expansion restricting navigation. When DEP Inspector Karen Morrison arrived, she expected serious violations based on Valerie's dramatic allegations. Instead, she found Harold's 30-year-old marina in pristine, museum-worthy condition. The complaint mentions unauthorized expansion, Morrison said, comparing measurements to the original 1987 environmental study. But your footprint hasn't changed by even an inch since the first construction. The metallic snap of her tape measure echoed as she verified every dimension. Harold had built his marina so precisely that the DEP used it as a reference standard for other waterfront applications. Submitting false environmental reports is a serious offense, Morrison warned while packing her equipment. $10,000 fines, plus potential criminal charges. Someone provided completely inaccurate information. Criminal charges. Valerie had just committed felony false reporting with her signature on official documents. But Daniel wasn't done. He pulled the trigger on an emergency property tax reassessment, claiming my marina generated commercial rental income. Overnight, my taxes exploded from $12,000 to $42,000 a year. The timing was surgical, scheduled for the same week as an emergency HOA meeting to modernize waterfront access bylaws, a coordinated attack, financial pressure through inflated taxes, regulatory capture through rigged rule changes. Then the midnight harassment started. Anonymous calls with heavy breathing followed by mass threats. Sell the marina or face consequences. The background noise sounded suspiciously like O'Grady's Tavern, where Daniel held court every Tuesday with his council cronies. My security system recorded everything, automatically uploading to cloud storage these tech-challenged boomers would never think about. Marjorie Fenton became my unexpected secret weapon. This 78-year-old librarian had cataloged every HOA decision since 1997 with an attention to detail that could shame the National Archives. Her basement resembled a government vault, complete with color-coded files that made the FBI look sloppy. The Mortons destroyed the Sanderson family in 2019 using the exact same tactics, Marjorie explained over coffee in her immaculate kitchen. China cups clinked as she pulled out thick folders. Manufactured code violations, coordinated political pressure, forced sale at half the value. The Sandersons fled to Arizona just to escape. She had documented everything, staged inspections, trumped-up violations, sudden tax reassessments that bankrupted previous victims. The Mortons had perfected systematic property theft disguised as municipal governance. 3 waterfront families so far, Marjorie continued, voice tight with controlled fury. Each time, Daniel's construction buddies swooped in and bought the distressed properties for pennies, then flipped them for massive profit. It's organized crime wearing City Hall badges. The scale was staggering. This wasn't a personal feud. It was a coordinated campaign of municipal theft targeting veterans and elderly homeowners who seemed vulnerable. But the Mortons made one fatal mistake. During my Coast Guard years, I'd worked alongside federal prosecutors dismantling corruption rings involving harbor authorities and dock permits. I recognized every element of their operation. The pattern was textbook: fabricate emergencies, manufacture violations, apply political pressure, then profit from distressed properties. What made it federal was the systematic nature and consistent targeting of veteran homeowners, a protected class. My phone started buzzing with messages from former Coast Guard contacts now in federal law enforcement. Turns out targeting veteran property through fraudulent government action triggered extremely specific federal statutes with serious prison time. The amateurs were about to learn that some games carry consequences measured in decades. The taste of victory began replacing the bitterness in my mouth. The envelope arrived on a gray Thursday morning, smelling like old paper and long-buried secrets. Marjorie's hands trembled as she spread yellow documents across my table while rain drummed against the windows like impatient fingers. "I found these in my basement last night," she whispered, pointing to faded typewriter text that would change everything. The original 1985 HOA incorporation documents everyone thought burned in the municipal building fire. There it was, typed on an ancient IBM Selectric in Marjorie's own formatting. Lot 47B Marina facilities shall remain private property in perpetuity, exempt from all association jurisdiction, covenants, and assessments. Harold had negotiated bulletproof protection 38 years ago, and the only surviving witness was sitting across from me, sipping coffee with the satisfaction of someone who never throws anything away. But the bombshells weren't done. Marjorie's deeper digging uncovered the real reason behind the Mortons' desperation. "I've been researching their finances," she said, sliding over a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. "They're drowning." The documents painted a picture of suburban success built on quicksand. $127,000 owed to various creditors, a brutal second mortgage at 18% interest, an active ethics investigation into Daniel's undisclosed construction contracts, Valerie's real estate license under review for false advertising, specifically for marketing your marina as community property. She's made over $200,000 in commissions selling houses advertised with marina access in the past 18 months, Marjorie said. 3 properties sold explicitly because buyers believed they'd get boat slip privileges. Suddenly, everything snapped into place. Valerie wasn't stealing my dock for wine parties. She was using it to prop up a massive real estate fraud scheme. Every house she sold with community marina access generated illegal commissions from amenities she didn't own. But the most explosive detail? Several of the defrauded buyers were veterans using VA loans, triggering federal mortgage fraud statutes with mandatory sentences. Their financial desperation explained the aggressive harassment, the fake violations, the political pressure. They weren't just trying to steal my property. They were trying to paper over years of fraudulent deals before their house of cards collapsed. Then Marjorie delivered the knockout blow that made my coffee cup rattle. "I found this too," she said, sliding over a handwritten note in Valerie's unmistakable script. A letter from 1987 addressed to the HOA board. "The Harold Pierce Marina exemption is properly recorded and legally binding. Marina facilities on Lot 47B remain private property outside association jurisdiction." 36 years ago, Valerie had acknowledged in her own handwriting that she knew the marina was private property. Every claim she'd made since, every filing, every complaint, every lie was deliberate fraud. Not ignorance, not confusion, intentional crime. The metallic taste of triumph replaced the anger in my mouth. I now held ironclad proof of not only my property rights, but a criminal conspiracy involving fraud, corruption, and systematic targeting of veteran families. Marjorie smiled into her coffee like a librarian who had just solved a decades-old cold case. "I believe the phrase is, 'Gotcha,'" she whispered. Federal prosecutors were going to devour this case whole. With Marjorie's smoking gun evidence covering my dining table like battle plans, it was time to build the perfect legal ambush. The musty scent of her basement archives mixed with fresh coffee as we transformed into an unlikely strike team, a retired Coast Guard engineer and a 78-year-old librarian preparing to dismantle municipal corruption. "We need allies," Marjorie said, adjusting her reading glasses with the precision of someone who'd cataloged injustice for decades. The Sandersons had been destroyed by identical tactics, but they would fight if it meant protecting future victims. My call to Jim Sanderson in Tampa shattered his voice with bottled fury. "Those crooks stole our dream home," he said. 30 years saving for a waterfront retirement, wiped out by fake violations and legal fees fighting bogus inspections. If you can take them down, we'll fly up and testify. Marjorie's preserved Sanderson file revealed the exact same playbook. Emergency inspections by unqualified cronies, political pressure through Daniel's city council connections, sudden tax hikes forcing a distressed sale to connected buyers, Classic municipal extortion posing as code enforcement. Next came the painful conversations with Valerie's fraud victims. 3 military families who'd paid premium prices for promised Marina access that never existed. Sarah Murphy, a Navy veteran with twin toddlers, nearly broke down describing how they drained every savings account for their waterfront dream. $20,000 extra because she guaranteed boat privileges, Sarah explained. My husband deployed twice to Afghanistan so we could buy this home. She used our service against us. These weren't just financial crimes. They were deliberate attacks on military families who trusted a real estate agent abusing her power. My Hartford attorney, Rebecca Walsh, began building federal charges the moment I delivered the evidence boxes. During my Coast Guard years investigating maritime fraud, I'd learned that prosecutors live for cases with patterns, victims, and criminals foolish enough to document everything. This one delivered all 3 on a silver platter. Municipal corruption targeting veterans through fraudulent inspections triggers multiple federal statutes, Rebecca explained, spreading legal codes across her table. Real estate misrepresentation involving VA loans means federal mortgage fraud with mandatory prison time. The systematic targeting of military families qualifies as civil rights violations under federal housing law. She had already contacted FBI agents specializing in municipal corruption. Turns out federal prosecutors had been tracking coastal corruption cases for years, schemes involving waterfront theft targeting elderly and veteran homeowners. Our situation filled gaps they'd been trying to close. Forensic accountant Daniel Kim dove into the Mortons' financial mess, tracing money trails with surgical precision. His analysis revealed a corruption cycle polished like organized crime. Manufacture violations, forced distress sales, have associates buy properties cheap, flip them for massive profit, repeat until someone fights back. The Mortons weren't amateurs. They were running a small-town extortion syndicate using city authority as their weapon. Marjorie's community organizing skills rivaled military logistics. Her network of intimidated neighbors suddenly found their courage. Mrs. Carter photographed Daniel's inspectors staging violations at the Sanderson house, Marjorie reported, sliding new evidence into a perfectly labeled folder. And Mr. Kowalski recorded Valerie threatening his elderly mother with code harassment unless she supported their Marina takeover. Evidence multiplied like wildfire. Security footage of vandalism by Valerie's wine crew. Audio of midnight threats traced to Daniel's political drinking buddies. Documentation across multiple victims showing identical harassment patterns. Our secret weapon was the upcoming public town hall meeting Marjorie had orchestrated for Thursday night. She convinced the municipal clerk to require HOA business to be conducted in open session with mandatory media access and official recording. The Mortons had no idea they were walking into a carefully arranged federal sting. But the real brilliance came from Marjorie's mastery of Connecticut municipal law. She discovered that filing false government reports while holding office was an automatic felony. No need for federal approval, no need for trial results. Just the act itself was enough. Public officials who knowingly file false reports face immediate removal from office and criminal prosecution, Marjorie explained, the quiet joy in her voice unmistakable. Daniel loses his council seat the moment charges are filed. The trap was elegant. Federal agents would attend as observers while Valerie and Daniel unknowingly incriminated themselves on public record. Process servers would deliver indictments the moment they finished confessing. Then Valerie launched a smear campaign so vicious it felt like being kicked in the gut. She spread the rumor that I was a dangerous PTSD-ridden veteran, dishonorably discharged for violent behavior. The whispers slithered through grocery lines and coffee shops like toxic fog, designed to destroy my credibility before the town hall. The cruelty was breathtaking. This woman was attacking 30 years of honorable service because I wouldn't surrender my dock. But targeting a veteran service record leaves a paper trail, and mine made her look delusional. Honorable discharge, commendations, Coast Guard Achievement Medal, 0 disciplinary actions. To shut down the rumor completely, I scheduled a voluntary evaluation with Dr. Patricia Haynes, a seasoned psychiatric specialist for Coast Guard personnel. Your psychological profile shows excellent resilience and stress regulation, Dr. Haynes reported after extensive testing. No indicators of PTSD, anger disorders, or anything affecting judgment. Her written assessment reduced Valerie's rumors to pure circus-level lies. But Daniel escalated through political channels, convincing Mayor Preston to fast-track eminent domain proceedings, claiming my marina was essential emergency infrastructure. Never mind the town had 3 public boat launches and a Coast Guard auxiliary station. Daniel needed a fake emergency to justify theft. During my service, I learned that eminent domain requires legitimate public benefit, not personal profit for corrupt officials. This attempt was so flimsy it bordered on comedy. Rebecca filed an injunction while federal agents noted the abuse of municipal powers. Then came the fake business deal. Atlantic Coastal Development offered $500,000 for my marina with one subtle clause: perpetual community access rights. They wanted to buy my property with borrowed money, then immediately hand Valerie permanent access while I absorbed the losses. Rebecca investigated and discovered the company had been incorporated 3 days earlier, with Daniel listed as consulting advisor. A textbook laundering attempt, disguised as a real estate deal. Meanwhile, the intimidation campaign reached lunacy. Anonymous flyers claimed I hated children and planned to demolish the marina for development. Fake social media accounts spread conspiracies about government military spies in Millfield Cove. Digital forensics traced the accounts to computers at Daniel's City Hall office and Valerie's real estate firm. Security footage caught Valerie skulking around at 3 a.m., wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, placing defamatory flyers on windshields like a low-budget criminal. But their most reckless move involved Daniel using his position to dig into military databases looking for dirt on my service record. During my career, I built strong contacts who monitor suspicious searches on veteran data. FBI agent Jordan Ruiz called me Tuesday morning with news that made my coffee taste like victory. We've been tracking harassment against veterans in corruption cases, he said. Municipal officials using government access to intimidate veterans crosses into federal territory immediately. Phone records showed systematic witness tampering, elevating their operation into federal racketeering. Meanwhile, Marjorie's community network had become a full-blown neighborhood uprising. After years of silence, residents finally spoke out. Mrs. Carter submitted photos of staged violations. Mr. Kowalski had recordings of Valerie threatening his elderly mother. Daniel's last-ditch effort to sabotage Thursday's town hall by switching venues was blocked by Marjorie, who had already arranged news crews and live streaming to prevent any manipulation. The noose was tightening. Federal charges were ready. All we needed was Thursday night. The taste of approaching justice was sweeter than Marjorie's homemade coffee. Valerie's final act of desperation was pure theatrical madness. Wednesday morning, she staged an accident at my marina so dramatic it could have landed her a daytime Emmy. The smell of briny air mixed with her cheap floral perfume as I watched from my deck while she carefully positioned herself beside a perfectly harmless dock cleat. Her choreographed fall was impressive, in the way a toddler's school play is impressive. She pretended to snag her designer heel, threw her arms out, and collapsed in a dramatic heap, writhing on the planks like she'd been hit by lightning. The performance included pained groaning, both hands clutching her ankle, and crocodile tears streaking down her carefully applied makeup while she speed-dialed 911. "Severe injury from unsafe marina conditions," she wailed. Send an ambulance immediately. But Valerie overlooked one crucial detail. My upgraded security system captured every angle in crisp 4K resolution. The footage clearly showed her scanning for witnesses, adjusting her position, testing her footing, then deliberately launching herself into her one-woman Broadway debut. Paramedic Riley Carter arrived with the weary skepticism of someone who'd handled decades of insurance scams. The metallic click of her medical kit opening underscored the awkwardness as she evaluated Valerie's supposedly devastated ankle. No swelling, no discoloration, full mobility, Carter noted dryly. Patient claims excruciating pain but refuses hospital transport. Translation: faker than a unicorn on roller skates. Within hours, Valerie filed a $50,000 personal injury claim alleging my dangerous Marina conditions caused permanent damage requiring extensive medical care. Insurance investigator Mark Jennings showed up Thursday morning, reviewed my security footage, and started laughing. In 20 years of this job, he said, replaying Valerie's dramatic flop, this is the most obvious stage fall I've ever seen. She literally looks at your camera before she throws herself down. We're referring this for felony prosecution. During my Coast Guard service, I learned that staged accident fraud in Connecticut is an automatic felony, no wiggle room. Valerie had just upgraded her crime spree from municipal corruption to federal insurance fraud. Daniel's nuclear retaliation came next. He scheduled an emergency city council session with only 12 hours notice, a blatant violation of public meeting laws, intended to pass a resolution declaring my marina a public safety hazard, requiring immediate municipal seizure. But Marjorie's network intercepted the plan. Her phone tree activated like a covert ops team. Dozens of residents showed up demanding their legal right to participate. Daniel's purple-faced rage when a crowd flooded his secret meeting was a work of art. The illegal resolution collapsed under legal objections and media scrutiny, revealing him as exactly what he was, a corrupt official abusing his office. Valerie's grand finale arrived the next day, a press conference claiming she was the victim of veteran aggression and a government conspiracy. Limping dramatically with a cane she didn't need, she stood before supporters holding professionally printed "Justice for Valerie" signs. I've been intimidated, harassed, physically injured by a dangerous veteran refusing community cooperation, she declared. City officials have failed to protect me. But the performance collapsed when Channel 12 reporter Hannah Delgado began asking pointed questions about insurance fraud, staged injuries, and documented harassment of veteran families. Valerie's supporters vanished like smoke as the interrogation sharpened. Then forensic accountant Daniel Kim dropped the revelation that transformed municipal corruption into federal racketeering. Valerie had attempted to bribe insurance investigator Mark Jennings with a consultation fee to overlook her staged fall. She offered me $10,000 cash, Jennings reported to the FBI, playing the recording. To understand community dynamics, she said, wanted me to treat the footage as misleading. That's automatic federal jurisdiction. Bribing an insurance investigator falls under federal fraud statutes, especially when tied to a pattern of targeting veterans. FBI agent Jordan Ruiz confirmed what we feared and hoped. The Mortons aren't small-town bullies, Ruiz said. They're running a municipal corruption enterprise. At this point, we're filing RICO charges. Marjorie prepared the final documents for Thursday night's town hall, her eyes shining with quiet triumph. 36 years I've watched these people ruin families, she whispered. Tomorrow, that ends. The trap was set, the evidence airtight, the criminals had documented their crimes in writing and on camera. Thursday night felt like the Super Bowl of small-town justice. The Millfield Community Center overflowed with 3 years of suppressed anger. Folding chairs groaned under the weight of packed bodies. The smell of burnt coffee and tension hung in the air while FBI agent Ruiz sat in the back row taking prosecutor-level notes. Three news crews aimed their cameras at the defendant's table. Valerie sat in full costume, designer blazer, flawless makeup, and the ridiculous cane she'd adopted for her performance art. She smiled at the crowd with political charm, clueless she was minutes away from collapsing her own world. Daniel strutted around shaking hands like a reigning king, unaware this was his political funeral. Marjorie commanded the front table with folders arranged like artillery. Her calm presence radiated the confidence of someone who knew victory was guaranteed. I began with military precision. Tonight, you will see documentation of a criminal enterprise operating under municipal authority to steal waterfront property from veteran families. I projected Harold's 1987 Marina permits while explaining Valerie's 36-year deception. Murmurs rippled through the room as neighbors connected the dots. Then came the moment that broke the dam. Here is Mrs. Morton's own handwriting from 1987, I said, projecting her original letter acknowledging the Marina's private status. Her distinctive script filled the screen like a confession. Valerie's face drained as 300 people watched her decades-long lie implode. But that was only the beginning. I presented Daniel Kim's forensic accounting, $200,000 in illegal commissions Valerie collected by selling Marina access she never owned to military families. Screenshots of her fraudulent listings appeared on screen. Sarah Murphy stood from the crowd, tears streaming. "She stole our children's college fund," she cried. $20,000 extra because she guaranteed us boat access in writing. The room erupted in outrage. Next came Daniel's corruption, fabricated inspections, fake emergencies, shell company laundering, political pressure, phone logs, financial records, email chains, the conspiracy exposed from every angle. Then I dropped the final bomb. Yesterday, Mrs. Morton attempted to bribe a federal insurance investigator with $10,000 to overlook her staged fall sum. I played the video of Valerie's ludicrous tumble, slow motion, and high resolution. The room erupted into laughter, harsh, cathartic, unstoppable. Then FBI agent Ruiz rose from the back, badge flashing like judgment. The color drained from both Morton's faces as reality hit them. Process servers stepped forward. "Valerie Morton and Daniel Morton, you are being served with federal indictments." The room exploded into applause as handcuffs clicked around two people who had tormented their community for years. Cameras flashed while Valerie's mascara streaked, and Daniel's political career died with a metallic snap. I stepped back to the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Marina is still private property, but justice belongs to everyone." The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. 6 months later, federal justice landed hard. Valerie pled guilty to fraud, conspiracy, and attempted bribery, earning 18 months in federal prison and $450,000 restitution. The thought of her stamping license plates instead of peddling lies brought satisfaction to every family she harmed. Daniel's fall was even harsher. RICO charges, abuse of office, conspiracy. He received 36 months behind bars. His resignation letter was one sentence: "I resign effective immediately." Their construction shell game collapsed under forensic scrutiny. The civil settlement exceeded $750,000, the largest corruption recovery in Millfield history. Sarah Murphy's family received full restitution plus damages, finally enjoying the waterfront lifestyle they'd earned. The Sandersons received justice for their stolen retirement and bought the Florida home they'd dreamed of. My Marina remains exactly as Harold intended: private, protected, peaceful. The steel gate still stands, but now it symbolizes victory, not defense. Marjorie became a regional hero. Using settlement funds, she founded the Millfield Property Rights Defense Fund, helping homeowners fight HOA abuse and municipal harassment. Law schools now teach her meticulous documentation methods as the gold standard for exposing corruption. The community healed. New HOA leadership implemented transparency reforms, open financial records, mandatory public participation, strict term limits. Property values soared once honest governance replaced fear. My proudest achievement is the Marina Community Foundation. Each month, my dock opens for veterans' therapeutic fishing programs. The sound of lapping waves now replaces toxic echoes of harassment. The annual Freedom on the Water celebration draws hundreds, showcasing how ordinary citizens can defeat corruption through persistence and federal law enforcement. 3 essential lessons protect every homeowner. Always verify HOA claims against original documents. Document every hostile interaction. Research officials' financial interests. Corruption always leaves a trail. Our case established legal precedent now used nationwide to protect veterans and elderly homeowners from municipal theft. Every sunrise over my peaceful dock carries the scent of victory and justice served. Harold's restored Boston whaler sits proudly in slip 3. Flags snap in the morning breeze. The metallic clink of rigging sounds like freedom ringing across the water. The Marina Foundation's scholarships have sent 12 children of veteran families to college. Marjorie's Defense Fund has helped 43 families defeat HOA abuse. Communities across the country now use our story to stand up to corruption. My greatest satisfaction comes from knowing future families won't endure what the Sandersons or veteran homeowners suffered. Harold would be proud. His marina stands as a monument to the principle that private property matters, documentation defeats corruption, and ordinary citizens armed with truth can topple criminal empires disguised as neighborhood authority. Your turn. Share your HOA nightmare in the comments. You're not alone. Subscribe for more David versus Goliath victories where persistence and federal prosecutors prove that justice still wins in America. That wraps up today's HOA story. If you enjoyed watching Karma in action, hit that like button, comment below, and tell us your HOA horror story. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next meltdown.